All right, members of council, administration, I'd like to call our meeting to order and to the members, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda as presented to you this evening? Okay, none declared. So what I need, members of council, at this stage here is a motion that we proceed in camera. Councilor Jobin, Councilor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That motion is carried. Before we go over, I think I should elude the reason why we're going in camera. It's under meeting and part meeting, maybe close to the public in accordance to section 239, 2A, B, and D of the Municipal Act 2001. And if the subject matter being considered is security of the property of the municipality or local board, personnel matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal and local board employees, and labor relations and employee negotiations. Okay, so I want to report out certainly that we were in a closed session shortly after calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. In accordance to section 239, 2A, B, C of the Municipal Act 2001, which permits a meeting or a portion of a meeting to be closed to the general public, and the subject matter being considered is the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and labor relations or employee negotiations. The town consultants, Perry Group, presented their final report on the information technology review that may impact the security of the town property, including cybersecurity and partial network security and management, as well as staff recommendations related to the organizational review. The town's consultants, KPMG, presented their final report on the organizational review regarding to identify of staff by position and related to labor relations and employee negotiations. The presentations were received and direction given to return them to council in a closed session on July 13th, 2021 for consideration at that time. So we're here at this stage here. We have our delegations, members of council, and with us we have Susan Chase, the project manager and senior consultant, and Andy Will, senior consultant with the Perry Group consultants. And it's really the information technology service review. Go ahead, Mr. Firth, our director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, so the report before you this evening is the IT service delivery review that was approved by council as part of the 2021 business plan and budget. A call for proposals was issued earlier this year and Perry Group was successful. They've done similar reviews in over 130 municipalities across the country. So the Perry Group conducted a deep review of the current IT service delivery within the town with input from council, senior leadership, staff, and union executive. And the project team from administration was our CAO, Paul Anthony, and myself. The Perry Group has worked with KPMG along the way to ensure that the respective reports contain consistent recommendations, KPMG being the organizational review that will follow. Council has delivered a copy of the admin report, ICS 2021-03, and the full report by Perry. So I'd now like to introduce, we've already introduced Susan and Andy, and they'll present their findings now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Firth.
Thank you very much for giving us this time today to give our presentation. So I'm going to go through some highlights of our review from the more detailed report that Council has received. Next slide, please. And again. Thank you very much, Laura. So just a little bit about us. Perry Group, we've been in business a number of years now. We have spun out of another organization that was in business serving the public sector for over 30 years. But we have now branched off with a focus on IT services as the previous organization has retired. We are very proud to say that every one of our consultants on our team have actual real life experience working as a CIO or as a senior manager in IT departments in municipal settings. So we all have that kind of experience that comes to the table. We believe very strongly and very passionately that technology can help build better municipalities. And that's why we do what we do. Next slide, please. This is just some of the services that we do provide. I don't have to go into much detail on any of these, just wanted to share it with you to show that we are very well rounded in our expertise. We do a lot of different services for our clients, and we are very proud and pleased of the work that we do. Next slide, please. So for this particular project, the IT service review, we can ask, why is it important to do a service review now? We know that modern organizations really use technology to simplify their processes and to deliver their services in a more efficient way. Your staff at Tecumseh actually rely on technology to perform a lot of their work, such as producing tax bills, running the payroll, and more recently providing online registration for recreation programs. We also know that this past year and a half, we've become even more dependent on technology thanks to the pandemic. Numbers are showing us that an astounding 94% of Canadians are actually online today, including the fastest growing segment being the seniors, who are now over 70% online. 80% of Canadians book their vaccine appointments online, albeit some with assistance from caregivers, family, friends, that sort of thing. And about 85% of Canadians actually made online purchases this past year. All of this tells us that people expect to be able to do business online, and they expect to be able to do business with their government as well. The previous Treasury Board president actually stated we can't be a blockbuster government servicing Netflix citizens. And this has actually resulted in Canada launching the Canadian Digital Services, which intends to modernize the way the Government of Canada designs and delivers digital services. We believe that's true for every level of public sector. In this time of Amazon, Netflix, Google, and all the other digital service channels, we as government really do need to redefine what does this mean for municipal services. Customer and staff expectations have really changed. They want access to information they need when they want it. They want online services to be easy to understand, easy to interact with, and to be tailored, even intuitive to their needs, and of course, available anywhere. Add to this the growth that so many communities such as Tecumseh are experiencing. We're seeing many new residents moving to the area, and they're coming from the cities, so they have expectations of digital customer services. They want to be engaged online with their local government. Using technology really does help to deliver services. It helps staff to take advantage of the efficiency that a technology solution can provide, from customer service to online permit tracking to simply requesting time off. It even can help staff to assist customers who don't have access to technology themselves. All this tells us that technology is very important today, but technology can be very expensive and there are many options out there. So a review of the services currently being offered at the town provides the opportunity to identify what's working well and where there are some opportunities for improvement. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the objectives of this project was really to take a look at the existing processes and systems that are in use, identify opportunities for automation, digitization, or improvement, take a look at where some of the services that are in place can be improved, or perhaps reinvented through the lens of digitization. An objective was to extend the outreach of the corporation to engage those we serve. So how can we better serve the customers, get them involved in the decision-making, hear from them more readily and more effectively. And of course, to empower all the employees in the use of technology to serve both the internal and external customers. Next slide, please. So the way we did this, this is our methodology. We used a standard 3-stage process. First stage was discovery, where we talked to a lot of people, we listened to a lot of people, we took a look at documents that had been produced, of course, the corporate strategic plan. We had workshops, interviews, we did a number of assessments that I'll talk to in a minute. And of course, we reviewed cyber risks and if there were any vulnerabilities. That moved us to stage 2, which was the strategy side of it, We had a workshop with the leadership team to help identify the strategic priorities. We actually identified through the discovery phase over 76 opportunities for digitization or for technology improvements. And the senior team were able to prioritize that down to 28 projects, which became the basis for the actual strategic plan. We were able to summarize all of the key directions, align it with the goals, and identify some success measures, which led us right to the final plan, which is being received today. The implementation plan laid out a roadmap for the different projects, but also took a look at the different resources required to ensure success. Next slide, please. So to quickly go through some of our findings, next slide. There's a lot of positives, certainly. There's a lot of confidence in the ITC team at the town. They're very respected amongst their peers and colleagues. We noted that they do capital lifecycle planning, which is a very important piece of the organization's growth. So this ensures that there's money available to reinvest into the technology, both hardware and software, so that all the devices are at a relatively current state and meet the needs of the staff. They adapted very quickly to the work from home environment during the past year and a half. We didn't see that with all of our customers, certainly, so it was good to see it in Tecumseh. One of the best things that we saw that stood out for us was the movement of all the budgets for software licensing, hardware, and everything into a central ITC budget line this past year. This provides the opportunity for the organization to have a really good understanding of where all the technology costs are. Rather than being dispersed throughout the organization, centralizing them in, you get a really clear view of what technology is costing you and where there might be opportunities. The town already utilizes the shared service model. So this is where they partner with the county, with the city, with other municipalities to take advantage of procurement opportunities, but also software agreements and just expertise. And we think that's outstanding for an organization. And of course, there's the full recognition of the importance of cybersecurity. It is something that is attended to and attended to very well. Next slide. Part of our assessment, we go through this model. We call it the municipal maturity model and maturity technology model. And what it talks about is building from the ground up. So we have the bottom layer, which is the technology infrastructure. So that's all the different devices, the wiring, all the different pieces on which everything will sit. So it's everything from the servers and that right to the laptops and smartphones that might be in place. It also includes policies, practices, and sorry, I just lost the word, service management tools that are in place. On top of that layer, we see the business solutions. So these are the big tools that are in place right now, the software solutions, such as what's being used for finance, for recreation program management, customer relationship management, and that. Without a strong foundation, there's not really a whole lot to build on. So this is why we say it has to build from the bottom up. Once you've got some of these business solutions in place, then you start looking at integration. You want to make sure that your systems are integrated properly so that financial transactions are moving seamlessly through the different systems, so that data is not duplicated across multiple systems. It's only captured once and stored once, but used many times. And then on top of that, we have the customer-facing layer. And this is where the website comes into play, or perhaps some of the apps that you might have, service apps, that sort of thing. With the service apps, you really do want to have the integration layer in piece so that everything is seamless throughout and the entire process is digitized from start to finish. That makes for a successful service delivery. So using this model, we've assessed all of these components at the town. And next slide, please. So this is a very brief summary of some of the highlights that we can mention here. So again, building from the bottom up with the infrastructure at the top of this chart here, there's been a lot of very sound technology investments. We see that as very, very positive. They bought good products, perfectly fitting for the organization, for an organization of this size and of this level of technical maturity. However, there is limited planning for network analysis and expansion. It tends to be very reactive. How can we fix it and let's get it done? There isn't a lot of opportunity for planning longer term. Cybersecurity, it's very good. We were very impressed with what we saw. There's always work to be done. So we've been able to identify some things that will take it to the very next level. For example, the disaster recovery plan has been initiated and is well underway. In the business solutions layer, there's a lack of in-house support for the business solutions. So there's a lot of reliance just on the vendors or on the business departments themselves, and they would all like to see a little bit more help from IT in this area. There is a need for some new enterprise systems. A couple of them are reaching end of life. Some require a little bit more work to be done, possibly even replacement in some cases, because there's newer products out there that are better. We did note that a lot of data seems to be captured on paper first and then entered into a system. So that's just a workaround solution telling us that the systems aren't really working the way they should be. And then there's a lack of architecture or roadmap. So that's longer term planning again. And that comes down to resource capacity, if nothing else really at this point. In the integration layer, there's limited integrations in place. There are some where there's a financial transaction, for example, initiated in one program, and it is automated and digitized through into the financial system. So that's good, but there are opportunities for more of these integrations. Again, reduce that duplication of data. We note that GIS is a very good place to start. You've got a relatively new program, seems to be well in place, and they've got solid policies in place and developing a solid program. And this is a really good opportunity for these integrations to take place. And then finally, the customer facing layer, we thought the website was quite good. It's easily accessed, doesn't take too many clicks to get to where you want to go. There are opportunities for improvement. We did note some inconsistencies across some of the pages, and we've talked to the team about that. But overall, we found it a quite pleasing website overall. We did note that online program registration is a new service that's available, and that's something that is expected amongst municipalities. So it was good to see that was happening. But the internal online service is perhaps not as strong. There's opportunities to improve things for staff as they work in their environment and need to find efficient ways of using their time. And next slide, please. Some of the other observations, I've alluded to this already, workload capacity is a concern. We did hear quite often, this is a direct quote, but a similar quote was given to us many times. IT is very responsive, but very overwhelmed. Calls can get lost or forgotten because they are in such a reactive mode. The team is quite lean for the systems that they do support and the number of staff that they do support. We noted that there is some lack of project rigor control, mostly due to the limited capacity of the resources. So we think there's opportunities to improve on that with some methodologies. And as well, end user training is needed. It came up in all the interviews and the staff survey. Staff are looking for more training. They want to be able to better leverage the tools that they do have at hand. So there needs to be some attention given to that. Next slide, please. One of the other assessments we did is the Municipal Online Services Assessment. This is where we identify 48 customer experiences that we typically see being delivered online by other municipalities. And then we compare Tecumseh's to that. Some of them that we compare to are big cities that do quite a bit, but we also compare to your neighboring municipalities or your comparator municipalities to see how you're doing against others. It's meant to just be a benchmark so that we can identify where we need to move forward, where there might be some opportunities. And you'll see here from this comparator chart here, Tecumseh's about 41%, so a little bit under the halfway point. So there are definitely some opportunities for improvement, but good to note that it is at least at 41%. If you move to the next slide, this is where we have a bit more detail. These are the different services that we look at and evaluate. And we have confirmed that, of course, with the IT team to make sure that we are accurate in our findings. And you'll see some of them here noting that they're partially available or yes, they're totally available or not available. Again, this just identifies opportunities for improvement, for digitization, for moving forward. Next slide, please. We also did, in the detailed report, a number of metrics comparisons. And so I've just brought forward a couple here. As you can see, Tecumseh is ranked a little bit lower than we would recommend. Perry Group's suggested range is what we see most commonly amongst our clients. Gartner Group and that would like to see it higher than this. But we just find that in Ontario, at least, it's not happening yet. So we use our comparators for this, and we think that there's an opportunity here for further investment in technology that will help bring Tecumseh up to the service delivery and the level of technology maturation that we see in some of the other clients. Next slide, please. Our last observations in the findings area is around the department itself, and this is about the resources available to deliver on what the business departments need to do the business and what your customers are starting to expect to receive from the town. So there's very high expectations across the organization for IT to help more. They've noted that they're looking for that kind of business analyst type person, somebody who can translate, this is my problem, this is my business problem, how can technology help solve it? And they need that help from the IT department. We also note that we want to see the business more engaged in defining their requirements. Too often we hear business departments saying, well, IT should be able to find it. They're the technology expert. Well, IT needs the help from the business department to find what does the business really need. And then we can align those solutions to what's actually required. IT needs to better communicate to the organization what's going on with the programs and the projects that they're delivering and timelines in that. We note that they've been very busy and it's been a very reactive mode, so there hasn't always been this opportunity. But people want to hear, they want to know. Technology is everywhere in the organization. We're all so very dependent on it now. So people want to know if there's upgrades happening, when am I getting my new laptop, that sort of information. So looking for IT to talk to them a little bit more about what's going on. But then we do note there are some missing skills and some missing expertise in the IT department that will really help to align with business goals and the requirements. We're going to go next into some of the recommendations, keep it very high level, and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Andy Will, for this part.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council, for this opportunity. Just to speak on how we came up with the list of projects, there is a more detailed listing of the projects in the final report. However, just to give you some background, we looked at the current project portfolio and as well the capital lifecycle planning model there to see what projects already were in existence. There were about 33 projects in the current portfolio and about 11 more appearing in the planned portfolio, a lot of those reoccurring. So out of this review process, we identified approximately 22 additional projects to look at and work with. And you will see those highlighted over the following pages. In going through the projects were identified through the review, through the interviews, and then we brought everybody together from the senior management team for a prioritization exercise. Applying best practice and also looking at the organizational review, comparators were done to ensure that we came up with a list of projects that was achievable and met the major goals of the organization. Next slide, please. So just to highlight some from each of the areas. From a governance perspective, one of the key items that we are suggesting needs to happen is an IT governance framework. It will also be well supported by a digital strategy and a cloud strategy. Next slide, please. When we look at the infrastructure projects, going through a business continuity and disaster recovery plan in more detail, which is already underway, will help. For next year, the office upgrade and the radio system replacement are going to be key initiatives. Next slide, please. From a business solutions perspective, some of the newer items that have come out is the need to put in place an IT service management system, which is a help desk. Putting additional process and automation into the customer service request tracking, and looking at potential for a building permit solution. If you can see on the current and planned activities, the financial software replacement was already planned, and that is going to be a key initiative. Next slide, please. Integration and data projects, as Susan indicated, there's a lot of attention already within the GIS area, and that's fairly mature. But developing it out as a roadmap so that the data can be used for additional analytics throughout other projects and leveraging that is going to become important as you move forward. Next slide, please. Customer-facing projects. Many of the customer-facing projects were already identified within the existing portfolio. Forms are an item that is being worked on currently, and if the digital strategy is to be done, then additional priority can be put into what forms can happen next. There is also eventually looking at a customer relationship management solution that is broader in scope as an additional item as we move forward. Thank you. Next slide, please.
So thanks, Andy. I'll wrap up with this slide here. We talked about some of the expected outcomes that we can see. With this diagram here, you'll see that we've identified the current state of the Tecumseh ITC department here as being very repeatable. So this is where they are. We believe that by moving forward with the projects that we've identified, with the governance that we've identified, and some of the other recommendations, especially around resourcing, they can easily move up to the well-managed area here of this particular chart. And that means that there is improved efficiencies, and you will realize improved effectiveness of how decisions are made and what policies are put in place around technology. And it should also see some increased cost effectiveness of service delivery. When you're having the customers do the self-service of some of the applications, it makes it cheaper and more efficient for the town staff, and it makes for better service delivery overall. And of course, this means it's more convenient for the customers. And that's really what it's all about: effective customer service delivery and making sure that the customers are getting the services that they need. And that's it for us. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to the mayor, to council, to the leaders, and of course to the staff. Everybody was super engaged in this project, talked with us very openly, shared their problems, shared their wins, and it helped us do our job more effectively. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much as well, Susan, and certainly Andy. You've read through this very quickly, and but I must say your report is 114 pages, so it's very, very in depth. And we've had the opportunity, council, to certainly look at it, and now it's a matter of digesting all of that and certainly moving forward. I don't know if there's anything else, Sean, you want to add at this stage here before I move on to receive the report?
No, just again, it was a very worthwhile project to have a third party come in with fresh eyes and look at what we do well, where we need improvement, and identify our gaps and weaknesses. And again, very happy with the report, and I think it's going to be a very beneficial roadmap for us moving forward. So thank you again. All right,
members of council, at this stage here, if I could have a mover and a seconder on the report to receive. The presentation, I should say. Yeah, Deputy Mayor McKetty and Councillor Jobin. All in favor? Opposed, if any of that is carried. Okay. Again, thank you very much, both Susan and Andy. All right, our next delegation is Bruce Peaver, partner, and Tom Malafont, Senior Manager, Advisory Management Consulting Industry Specialist, State and Local Government of KPMG LLP. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to present on our organizational review for the town of Tecumseh. What I propose to do tonight is to go over what we are engaged to do in this organizational review, and then provide you a high-level summary of our recommendations. So, and there we are. KPMG was engaged by the town of Tecumseh to conduct an organizational review to identify opportunities that would lead to a more efficient and cost-effective delivery of legislated and discretionary municipal services. And you asked us specifically to look at and examine the operations of all the town departments, defining their operations within the town's legislative mandate and policies, including those that you identify as discretionary. You also asked us to review and evaluate your current organizational structure and staffing levels, and to look at the different functions of the municipality. One of your concerns was about identifying possible synergies within different departments, as well as any duplications or overlaps in services. You asked us to reconcile your current staffing and supervisory resources based upon the operational and service delivery requirements. And finally, you asked us to work and coordinate with the concurrent IT service review that you have just heard from. So that was our mandate as far as the organizational review for the town of Tecumseh. Our findings were based upon extensive stakeholder interviews, documentation review, and leading practice in other municipalities across Canada. So I'm going to start with first the customer service area. And for Laura, I believe I am on page 3. That helps. My apologies. And I would keep going one more. There we are. Thank you. So we identified that there's an inconsistent understanding across the organization on the ownership of customer service within the municipality. The current main phone number for Town Hall has an auto attendant feature and is not live answered. In our experience, this can lead to citizen frustration and decreased levels of citizen satisfaction. We believe that the town should consider establishing a centralized customer service function, which would include establishing a new telephone number for citizens to call for information and service. And this number should be live answered by the customer service representatives during normal business hours. The town should also establish a corporate customer service strategy, which identifies service level standards for the various services provided by the town in order to effectively manage citizen expectations. And this would enable the town to create reports identifying existing service level results and assist in identifying trends. We turn the page. In reviewing the IT service area, recommendations were made in concert with the IT service review with respect to network security, administration, and the maintenance of software applications and a help desk. Network security has become increasingly challenging for municipal governments everywhere, with an increased number of breaches being reported on a regular basis. With respect to financial services, there's appeared to be a significant amount of manual effort required by staff within the financial services department, along with staff across the organization to manage the administration of payroll and other financial related day-to-day activities. The town should consider the implementation of a human resource management information software system, which would significantly reduce the level of manual effort and create capacity within the financial services department. As well, the town should complete the planned business process optimization assessment of the town's payroll system. With regard to public works and environmental services, currently the manager of public works has a large portfolio that includes the management of all public works maintenance activities associated with sanitary sewers, storm sewers and pump stations, and other infrastructures such as roads and bridges. The town should consider reallocating the responsibility for wastewater collection in order to better align services, consolidate all water-related activities, supply and collection into the water area. With regard to parks and recreation services, the manager of facilities was tasked with championing the town's energy conservation and demand management plan when it was first made a regulatory requirement by the province in 2014. We understand the team at the town has made progress in identifying and implementing several basic initiatives, and we understand the resourcing and accountability, though, has been inconsistent. So with a 5-year review of the 2014 plan underway, and the town's recent declaration of a climate emergency in 2019, and the adoption of the County of Essex Regional Energy Plan, the town should look at the appropriate resources to manage these activities. In the planning and building service area, we looked at those services from the perspective of achieving a balanced portfolio of functions to align with the town's strategic priority of development-related growth. Recommendations were provided to focus these departments' functions on working towards the priority of the town, conjunction with the engineering functions of Public Works and the Environmental Services Department. If you turn the page to corporate services, stakeholder consultations across the town identified that significant amounts of staff time are being spent on AODA compliance. And this approach to AODA compliance appears to be inconsistent, fractured, and somewhat misunderstood. We're suggesting that the town should conduct a business optimization assessment of not only the AODA process, but take a deeper dive into several of the corporate services areas to assist the organization in optimizing business processes to address bottlenecks associated with those functions. With respect to fire and rescue services, the volunteer fire service component of the department was excluded from the organizational review. With respect to the fire and rescue department, however, the project focused on opportunities to better integrate the department into the remainder of the organization. Recommendations were made that would involve expanding the scope of the department, as well as optimizing the delivery of fire prevention, education, and training functions. So, Your Worship, Council, to conclude, the town delivers many services at a level above the average of similar municipalities, and citizens appear to be well served in many areas. Our recommendations, coupled with the results of the previously completed Human Resource Review and the concurrent Information Technology Services Review, will provide the town with a path forward to create a more streamlined organizational structure. This new alignment of services is intended to result in improved customer service delivery to the town's citizens, a more effective delivery of services, as well as a better alignment of departmental functions to achieve council's strategic priorities. So that concludes our presentation, Your Worship, and I'd be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Is there any, and Tom, is there any questions to, certainly a delegation at this stage? If not, again, it was a very shortened summary, but again, a very intense document that's been prepared by KPMG. Is there anything, Madam CAO, you'd like to, just bring forward at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not particularly. I think you're quite correct that we have the fulsome document that's still under deliberation by council. And as we move forward towards decisions on the fulsome document in due course, we will make components of that, public, once we have direction from council. Thank you.
All right. If no further need for questions or comments at this stage, then I need a motion to receive the presentation. Move Councilor Tonio and Councilor Houston, support. All in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. So once again, gentlemen, thank you, for this very, very intensive report. Okay, so we'll move on to reports. The first report is our ICS 2021-03 Information Technology Service Review. And the motion is that the report ICS 2021-03 Information Technology Service Delivery Review be received. Councilor Altenhoff, Deputy Mayor McKetty. Further questions or comments? All in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. Next report is our CAO 2021-12 organizational review. That the report of the organizational review be received. Moved by Councillor Tonio, Councillor Jobin, support. For the questions or comments, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. And I don't believe there's any further business to be dealt with this evening. Therefore, certainly adjournment is in order. Councillor Antonio and Councillor Altenhoff. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Once again, for those viewing from home, thank you for viewing. And thank you for your patience as you're waiting for us to come back in session. And certainly I want to take this opportunity to thank our CAO and the senior management team and for these two very in-depth reports and on certainly a way forward for our municipality. So thank you for that. So with that, I bid you certainly good night.